Let me give this consent. All right. So today we have Deeps Biswas, our co-founder, CEO, ClickTrust. It's a division of ClearTrust, who will be the moderator of the day. We have our panelists. Piali Dasgupta has joined. She is the VP of Marketing for Sattva Group, a seasoned marketing and communication leader with 17 plus years of experience across media, e-commerce, retail, and now real estate. Then we have Srinath V, the marketing cluster head for CasaGrand. He's a marketing leader with track record for revenue growth and has launched major projects. And finally, Mr. CJ Matthew, the VP of marketing for Ashar Group. He's an expert in communication and outreach with nearly 2 decades in the property sector. So a very big thank you for our panelists for being here today. Over to you, Deeps.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ranjit. So a very warm welcome, all of you. So we have put together a certain set of questions for the topic we were wanting to discuss about between the brand, agency, and the vendor data divide. So, I mean, selling a piece of real estate, I mean, it's not like selling a pair of shoes. A buyer, I mean, they don't click an ad and buy a villa 10 minutes later. It takes months of site visit, WhatsApp follow-ups, and I mean, all the checks which you guys do. And there is a lot of data which is tracked during this journey. And it typically gets fractured between 3 different islands, I would say: the brand, the agency, their pixels, their ad accounts, and the vendor's tech stack. So the idea is that today we'll talk about the friction, the lost revenue. What are your opinions, and how are you, as a marketing leader, forcing your partners to speak the same language? So I'll start with my first question. I'll ask Piali, then we can move to CJ, then move to Srinath. Historically, Piali, real estate was driven purely by gut feel and relationship building. Today, every developer is sitting on a mountain of data, from the ERP system, legacy CRMs to website analytics. From your perspective, what is the biggest roadblock to turning this massive amount of data into actual business intelligence? Why is a single source of truth still so hard to achieve in this industry?
So I think the roadblock is I mean, you know, the question kind of has the answer, right? It's the volume of data. It is big data. It's just a tremendous amount of overwhelming amount of data that we're all sitting on. And depending on the size of the business that you're operating, in case of Sattva, for instance, we are currently doing about 20 projects which are in sustenance and about 12 to 16 in pipeline. And that can kind of, you know, give you a sense of the volume that we're dealing with. The data then becomes that much more complex. I think that, you know, there are 3 parts to this, right? There is an ownership problem. There is a data fraudulence problem, which I think the industry is sort of plagued by. And then there is a problem of how do you sort of put processes in place to consolidate, you know, this big data that we are sort of sitting on. Real estate typically, you know, has not relied on research and research data, right? It is one industry that has never really believed in research. So, you know, a large amount of data that we sort of rely on every day is really the funnel data, right? So I think on one hand, it is all the 3 things that I mentioned. And this is answering the second part of your question. On the other hand, I think it is really about not going deep and mining consumer insights the way a lot of other, you know, more, I would say, research-focused categories do, FMCG, retail, today even D2C brands. And I think that discipline has never really come into real estate, right? I think today a lot of brands are you know, just about starting on that journey. I'd say we've started that. Actually, we've done, for the first time in 32 years, you know, last year we did our first consumer research to really understand, how the brand is perceived, what the customer is saying across the geographies that we are present in comparison to our competitors. But I think, in order for you to really use that data effectively, you've got to take consumer insights, understand what it is saying, and layer it on top of the existing data that you have. That
Right.
then gives you, I would say, a mature data to work with. This is at least from a sales marketing CRM point of view, right?
Right.
And
So
also,
when
I
you
would say definitely from a product point of view.
right, so when you say consumer data, consumer insights, so this is post the transaction in your case, or this is also, in between you keep on getting this data from your existing customers or prospects, and that kind of forms the basis for your consumer insights, or is general just research?
So it's all. So there would be, let's say, a section of data that would be your existing customers, people that have already transacted with you, bought with you. In some cases, bought with you more than once, right? So a part of the data and the way any sort of consumer research across qualitative and quantitative is structured, as you would know, is part of that is, of course, your bought customers, right? Your booked customers. And then the rest would be people who are high intent, has not really transacted with you yet, but is looking to transact. And how are they sort of perceiving you, the brand, what is out there? I think a large missing piece also in real estate, right? Unlike a lot of other categories, and this I'm saying because I've spent time in other categories as well, and I do see a huge contrast between how, let's say, retail would look at consumer data, and we would look at consumer data. In a retail setup, for example, right, you would also look at listening data, more and more sort of stringently. You would look at that is data, right? That is what people are talking about, the brand. That is what people are talking about, the products that you've recently launched, right? And the newer emerging sort of platforms where people are reviewing your products, right? Reddit being a great example, right? Today you can't buy anything without a Reddit, going through a Reddit review. More so with high SP categories like real estate that you mentioned. But are we looking at that data as well, right? Or do we have a very sort of tunnel vision approach to reading data, right? To me, data is data, right? Everything is data. That data is also telling you something which you must listen to, because that is the voice of your customer, right? And how do you marry that data with what is coming in from consumer research, with what is currently already existing in your system, is what is, I would say, the unblock solution to the roadblock that you're talking about.
Got it. CJ, what is your opinion on this?
First of all, thank you everybody for whoever has worked behind the scenes to put this webinar together. Thank you for having us all. Data fragmentation is still an issue, definitely. Attribution to who's coming from what source, what are they looking at, what are they considering, what is their intent in terms of purchasing right away, or is it a future purchase? Are they just at the beginning of their search? A lot of this. I think real estate did go through a culture shock over the last 10 years when they started to pay attention to digital marketing. It's safe to say that in certain markets, and my friends from different markets could possibly ratify this, real estate takes its own time to adapt to technology, right? We're kind of the last movers with regards to how tech is supposed to improve our business. And tech is not just hardware, right? Tech is also, it's software, it's processes, it's also going to govern how people think, how people operate within the framework of all of your human resources. And it's not just, if I want to say one more extension, it's not just sales and marketing, it's the entire organization that has to take that tech friendliness, if I call it that, forward. We are coincidentally in the middle of a journey ourselves, where we are embellishing our processes to attribution, right, as to what we're seeing online and offline, and see how we can put all of this data together. Processes also include deploying tech, so quite a few of us are very, very excited because we're all tech geeks over here. But the bigger picture here is how to translate what we have, that wastage that we are seeing between the gaps in the silos. How do we capitalize on that? Does that data, how much relevance does that data have to a product that we are offering today? Some of that data inspire business development goals in the future, right? What can we do next year? What can we do 6 months from now? Coming back to present and how we are evolving the system, I think that a couple of gaps, smaller gaps, like within a family, for example, sometimes the wife is putting, the wife is putting the initial inquiry, but when it comes to an actual project site visit, it is the husband who's filling the details, and suddenly you're wondering what happened to this qualified lead that pre-sales was saying that we are bringing for a site visit. Another smaller issue which I think certain markets face is you have a healthy conversation through your pre-sales team, and suddenly the customer walks into your office with a channel partner in tow. So smaller issues like this which create gaps, real life gaps, to larger issues like your for example, your corporate website sees 7,000, 14,000 unique visitors a month, or even much more larger volume depending on the size of your organization and the number of projects you are offering. And then you see organically you've probably got 15 leads or 150 leads per month, and then you're wondering what happened to the rest of it. Where is the drop off, right? So being last adopters of tech, I think there is a phenomenal amount of learning that is still happening in the industry. As we move along, these little gaps in our between our silos will disappear, will merge, and we'll all be able to see better pictures and better capitalization of data as we move forward.
Right. Thank you, CJ. I think that gives a fair insight in terms of how you guys are looking at it. The example of a family and having three different people having three different opinions is very interesting, because that is a reality, right? I mean, when you are, because these are all high value purchases, and everybody would have an opinion on it.
One of our standing jokes internally is the man in the family is just the walking, talking checkbook. It is the woman of the house that is actually making the decision.
That is true. Let us see what Srinath has to say on this. Srinath, what is your opinion on this?
Sure. So as my fellow panelists pointed out, so we are right now sitting in like an immense amount of data, but unfortunately, we don't know how to process it. Purely because the data systems that are at place are very fragmented. For example, some places are still bound by legacy CRM systems, web analytics, and etc., which are sort of, each one has a different schema of operation altogether, and it's very difficult to consolidate altogether, making like the consolidation or shift from a digital first to a manual, which is error prone. So the moment a manual intervention comes in, you have to factor in the scope of error to it, which is why there are certain data inconsistencies particularly. And culturally also, like as CJ pointed out, like we have been sort of the last movers into, adopting data and tools to, structure the data that we have, which is purely also because of the resistance to, accepting to a data-oriented approach, because historically the real estate business has been more along the lines of instincts and relationships, wherein sales on reliance with the instinct or gut feeling that how the customer would react, or basis the sales pitch without relying on how data, like what exactly have been the signals that the customer has shown during the entire funnel process till reaching to the bottom of the funnel. They rely more on the gut instinct, etc., which is why there is a resistance to this shift as well. Rather using a data as a core decision-making metric, it takes a second, a second priority towards that. And also from a tech standpoint, I believe some of the systems still lack, data engineers and analysts who can architect the data and do the data mining to give plausible insights. So majorly a data, like a roadblock along, how we are analyzing the data is what I feel is like biggest roadblock to, this problem in hand.
Yeah, and actually, perhaps from your opinions, right? The amount of data you guys are collecting at different stages of the funnel is massive, because you have multiple properties, there are multiple locations, multiple stages of the funnel, right from getting the curiosity generated for the customer right till the visit, the on-site visit to closure. Everything looks to me that collection of data effectively and becoming a single source of truth, I think, is the first challenge, I think, which in real estate you guys face. Because unless there is a single source of truth of data collected at one source, and then you leverage it to kind of segment it and then see how much insights does it add with respect to the consumer research reports, as Piali was mentioning. It looks to me that that is the first challenge. Now when you look at today's data privacy awareness, there is getting stricter day by day and changing regulations in India. I think you guys have to be much more careful how you collect, store, and use customer information. And at the same time, you have to deal with fake data entering your systems. So how are you balancing the need for secure first-party data while still keeping your marketing pipelines aggressive? Piali.
Yeah, so this one's a challenge, right? I think that, on one hand, it is about ensuring that, cleanliness of data is both your responsibility as much as it is as is your partner's responsibility, right? Whoever you're choosing to partner with. On the other hand, internally, have you been able to build a system where you are able to sort of, spot whether it's fraudulent traffic, whether it is, basically sort of, PII data that's not going to be valuable for you, right? So I think typically in real estate, right, you would also see a lot of, in the bottom funnel, you would also see a lot of mismanagement of data, right? So for example, attribution becomes a very, very big problem, right? Who finally gets the credit for the lead that has converted it? Is it channel sales? Is it marketing? That becomes a huge problem. I've seen that across. I think that it's both an accountability issue, and for example, right, like you may run a campaign with a certain partner, which is, let's say, like an affiliate campaign that a lot of us end up running. Now it is also about really doing the due diligence to figure out whether the kind of data that is being used is relevant and not fraudulent data, right? And that's why I said that it is about accountability. It is about ensuring that it's not just about appointing a vendor to say that, hey, run this campaign, here is my audience, here are my signals, here is my cohort, here is here's my creative. It's also about how you on the brand side, because ultimately the brand ownership is that's at the at the brand custodian's end, right? How do you really ensure that you're able to sort of do that? That's one part of it. The second part of it is, internally, have you been able to build out robust mechanisms to ensure that attribution is as clean as it possibly can be? Because if you're not doing that, you're actually passing the wrong signals back to your platforms, which in turn is also resulting in less optimized campaigns, as a result of which you're also losing money. So ultimately, it kind of ends up becoming about losing money, whether it's bad traffic, whether it's misattribution, whether it is engaging with third-party partners who are probably not shooting your ads to the right audience, and so these are some of the checkpoints that I think are becoming more and more crucial.
Right. CJ.
I think we should maybe take a quick second and look at the history of bad data. For us, genuinely for us, we've realized this issue about 15 to 18 months ago. The reason we realized this issue is simply because at that point of time in our journey, we had a larger number of projects than we have today. And we were also stepping up what was performance marketing and all the other channels that you could use within performance marketing to do demand gen and all sorts of advertising across the digital footprint to bring in leads and interest to your project. We've had horror stories. I use that word very carefully. Horror stories of clients who generally get very, very annoyed, very, very upset during a phone call and say that I did not place a lead, right? I think that's where it starts from when we're talking about fraudulent leads. When we first realized this, then we started talking back to the one partner that we were using at that point of time to govern all of our performance marketing. And they were sitting down and scratching their head and like, what do we do? How do we fix this? What we've then since done is slightly fragment our advertising. We've gone to work with either direct publishers, we're taking them on our own, and etc. So it kind of break down all of these digital advertising mechanisms that we have, and then at this point, unfortunately, manually give on a daily basis feedback for what we've identified as fraudulent data. However, at this point, and I may not be aware of it, but I'm sure there are mechanisms to help real estate get better lead hygiene levels. And it's only a matter of time where, as individual participants within the real estate ecosystem, we'll find the right kind of partner to help us clean this up and bring back better value for the rupee that we're putting up. Last but not least, it is an issue. It's not just about the marketing rupee. It is also about the churn in terms of time and effort that your callers, whether they're in-house or outsourced, are doing. And so it's more than a single hit. It's a hit on multiple levels, right? That 2-minute call, or rather even a 30-second call, which results in somebody saying, I did not inquire, please take my name and number off your database, vis-a-vis however long that call goes. It's an unfortunate investment, and that it's a growing pain. We have our own system to try and reduce the pain, but it's not very effective. I mean, that is the submission at this point of time, because it's manual, right? We've not deployed tech. We've not probably come across the right tech to be able to improve that system. But we're getting there. And hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months, I think industry-wide solutions should start to surface.
Right. No, I think the point you mentioned, right? Going to having direct publishers and having a relationship with them, and going to credible publishers and directly placing without the network challenge is
Correct.
an effective solution for sure.
Yeah, it is. They're more open to receiving this kind of feedback rather than a go-between will say, it's a problem with your pre-sales, or there's a delay in your outgoing calls, and whatever other excuse that they will use. The direct publisher is concerned about their own reputation, right? Their own, one client should not be unhappy enough to tell another client, because we're all connected, right? A lot of us meet at industry events and we'll say, okay, xyz.com, don't work with them, right? PC.in, work with them. So you don't want that to happen. So the publishers are really concerned about it, and they take the feedback seriously.
Oh, perfect. Srinath, what do you have to say on this?
I think a lot has to come from the way volumes are handled, because initially, for example, when we started, we were lean initially, but with every passing, journey or financial, we keep on adding more projects, and the dependency to serve with a project with more leads increases, and hence the pressure on mediums, which are sort of the lead giving mediums, also the channel partners increases. And then most of the time our KPIs are focused on volumes, like how much more leads have this volume, have this particular medium generated, how is the conversion, etc. But eventually, and of late, with more volume coming in, obviously the fraudulent data, or the data which is unwanted, creeps in, and it becomes very difficult. Again, tying back to the previous question, with mechanisms to not handle fraudulent data, or not able to process the right data, again everything becomes a challenge. But for us, gradually a shift that we are adopting is to rethink our KPIs from volume to quality, wherein we are focusing more on quality leads from our initial understanding of KPI from like total clicks, total leads, to a validated first party lead conversion rate. Or to give a better example, what are the sources for the lead to come in? For example, is it the traditional Meta, Google, etc., or my channel partner? And what are the validation checks we are implementing at each level of the lead interaction with our systems is what we are prioritizing right now. And also we are opening ourselves to adopting to more ad fraud detection tools, because that is also one of the main marketing lookouts that we have been exploring for a past year or so, wherein we are trying to identify what is the bot spam traffic lead inflow coming in and how quickly we are able to address that instead of it letting creeping our systems and spoiling our entire data capturing thing. And also helps identify like which is the right source of data, like that's the right source of lead coming in, and which are the right affiliate networks, how IP filtration is helping us. So those things is what we are right now prioritizing. And to to get the right lead to interact with the sales at every checkpoint, we need to have a validation being met. For example, something as simple as say a mobile OTP verification, which obviously puts heavily like a question on how it may also increase bounce rate of the lead as well the moment it sees like a lot of checks being entered. But that is one risk we have to take, because as we are responsible for every marketing rupee spent, when the focus is more on ROI, then these measures are something that have to be taken drastically.
Right. No, I think the takeaway from what you said is, and that was, I think, fairly technical is what you said, right from IP filtration to everything. It is important to change the KPIs, maybe relook at the KPIs. So when you're talking about the volume, so that is, I think, more of a sales KPI than a marketing KPI. I'm not sure how you structure it right now. But focusing a KPI towards lead quality probably reduces the problem, which CJ was also saying that somebody says, I didn't fill up this lead and why are you calling me? It kind of moves there. And my third question actually comes from there only. With this disconnect between the marketing and sales, your dashboard represents, for example, a highly successful campaign, hundreds of conversions because the pixel fired. But the sales force, the sales guys, they feel the momentum did not match the report. I did not get enough on-site visits, enough people calling or maybe responding to us for the property. Now, moving past this usual blame game, what are the current changes you guys have already implemented, structural or technological, where you have kind of aligned everybody's KPI around the same data? Piali.
I think we're just about starting that journey, right? This has been a problem that's plagued us for a while. And I think for us specifically, it's also, between marketing and sales, there is pre-sales, right? That's where the leads are sort of landing. And it's also about the efficiency in that team that will eventually result in site visits, and whether that team has the ability, a natural ability to also cross-sell, upsell a lot of the leads that are coming in for a certain micro market. I think that also seems like a really challenging piece for us, where it's usually a result of bandwidth, the volume, and everybody on this panel has spoken about volume, so I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it, but just the volume of leads and the volume of projects that you have to sell vis-a-vis the number of people that have been employed for that team, for that, sort of sub-department, and whether they're able to sort of handle that. So I think the challenge actually for us specifically starts from that. And then it is about, the on ground, whether sales is able to really see, the kind of site visits that we are sort of seeing on dashboard, right? I think, like I said earlier, also, it is also about really defining what is a lead to you, right? Like, there is an MQL, there is an SQL, which you mentioned, right? For us, MQL is fairly simple. It is about, hey, does this person, is this person looking for a certain, property in a certain micro market, and is the budget matching? And then the person is a qualified lead. At a site visit level, it kind of gets a lot more complex and fragmented, because there is also referral and also CP. And often, you have very unforeseen kind of situations. Like, for example, there could be CP standing outside, right outside your project, and whoever comes in, the CP might kind of, come in with, the customer might come in with the CP, and then, that again sort of ends up complicating the funnel for us, right? So yeah, I think we've just about started, kind of cleaning that up, putting, processes, just things like, for example, OTPs, etc., to ensure that, it's a lead that's coming from, you know, a Google or a Meta or any of the other channels that we have been running ads from, as opposed to a CP, and then how does attribution happen? But yeah, I mean, I think to your question on, data not matching, site visit data not matching what, your dashboard is showing, it is also about how leads are being qualified, right? Like, so at a calling stage, if a lead is being qualified as, let's say, site visit scheduled, and then finally that site visit is not happening, then it's a big question mark on how qualification is being done, how rating of leads are being done, etc. So I think for me, that is the root cause of the problem on why dashboard versus actual numbers of walk-ins that are happening at site are not matching.
Right.
That's our perspective. Other players may have different areas where the problem is sitting.
Yeah, and I think when you say the CP walking in, I think the information he has on the property before he just walks in is also important. How do you, what has he seen in the ad? Where has he seen it? What is the kind of impact that has kind of had on him? And if that is, I think, very profound or impactful, then I think that is a much more warmer lead for you guys to, and for the sales guys, pre-sales guys to close it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the expectation of the number of walk-ins that you're expecting on a weekend, for instance, vis-a-vis what actually ends up happening, and on a Monday morning when you see the site visit reports, I think that gap does exist, and it exists, I think, everywhere. And I think a part of that, I think, is how lead feedback is being captured in the system, right? A lot of the times the problem is really there, right? It's not the right lead scoring or the right lead feedback. And sometimes, of course, it's just as simple as, people canceling plans also, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that is true.
which is,
Yeah. I mean, one question, I mean, just out of curiosity, when people come to you, right? I mean, your marketing efforts, do you see them more successful on desktops and laptops people, or you see more people looking at your ads on the mobile and then coming in?
About 80+% of the ad consumption is happening through mobile, as I'm sure is the case across industries, across categories. So yeah, it is definitely mobile.
Right. All right, CJ, what do you have to say about this classic disconnect?
I think I'll answer this in two parts, and I'll try and get through it as soon as I can. Number one is, I think we have a love-hate relationship with the channel partner fraternity, which is okay. It is an important part and an important cog of our ecosystem. We also need to understand how their dynamics are changing and how it's becoming very competitive for them, and all the advertising that small to mid-sized firms within the channel partner fraternity are doing. And that also raises its own plethora of problems, so to speak, for how they're advertising the same project that you're advertising, right? And so you have to keep relationships as savvy as possible. You're trying to find that middle line, saying that, okay, this is some things you can do and this is some things you can't do. Having said that, all of the variables that Piali has very correctly talked about. The other facet of changes that we've been able to do successfully over the last 3 years here is expectation management. Now, as a brand that operates in the market that we do operate currently, it's literally the brand and its reputation that's doing the heavy lifting, right? The advertising that we're doing is really just encouraging people's curiosity, reminding them of an offering in the real estate ecosystem that exists. But at the end of the day, if 65% to 72% on average of your walk-ins, the customers that actually come to your sales office, are still coming through the channel partner fraternity, then the brand through the channel fraternity is doing some amount of heavy lifting for you. So expectation management is actually a practiced, like a 1 hour session that marketing, sales, and pre-sales go through once in a quarter, where everybody brings their learnings to the table, right? Pre-sales is sitting and saying that this is some of the consumer behavior traits that they're seeing through the hundreds and thousands of calls, connected or otherwise, that they see. And of course, some of the WhatsApp conversations that they engage in. Marketing is coming and saying consumer behavior on digital, this is how it's evolved, this is how they're doing. We are advertising, so they probably see a channel partner microsite first, because or a real estate aggregators page first, because obviously your three large players in real estate aggregators are spending a huge amount of money on SEO, right? And so they are always ranking. And sales is coming back and saying that this is what's happening at the actual conversations. These are FAQs. So you put all this learning together, you map out what needs to change in the communication through your entire digital footprint, right? What needs to go on your microsite, what needs to go on your flagship website, so to speak, in terms of content and addressing FAQs as effectively as possible. Because the consumer, I think you can divide the consumer into two parts, right? One is the family that's really reading through all of the options. They're checking microsites, they're checking the real estate aggregator, they're checking CP pages, they're checking your website. And then there is the one other slightly maybe growing demographic of people who are doing quick drop a lead, quick drop a lead, quick drop a lead, and I'll deal with all of these conversations over the weekend. Yeah. Now, these two little silos are behaving almost mutually exclusive from each other, right? And the more you discuss these consumer behavior traits between these three key teams, you're prepared for your quarterly targets, your monthly targets, because dynamics within the industry, because they're led by the consumer, right? If it's the monsoons, for example, in Bombay, our walk-ins at the site just crashes, because it is a little difficult to travel from site to site during the monsoons, right? Especially peak market. So there's 45-day to 60-day period where all of us are actually sitting at the site and doing this. So because there isn't enough walk-ins, but your digital funnel is showing a lot of activity. Even in fact, it might be a little bit of a spurt of activity. So what I go back to tell sales is that all of these people that we are seeing as leads, that pre-sales is calling, are people that are maybe at the start of their search, right? And so if we are all able to say that, okay, for this particular season, let's focus on the channel partner fraternity and see what they can bring us, right? Let's encourage as many people to do as much of a push as they can. Then we'll swing back to marketing. Then we'll swing back to pre-sales. And between this process that we've got going on, which is becoming slightly formal, because we are seeing the results, right? We're seeing how nobody's really losing their cool because not enough walk-ins came, or nobody's really losing their or getting disappointed because not enough calls came, etc., etc. And everybody is doing a really good job between these three touch points of making sure that organizational goals from sales velocity are met. So that's how we've been trying to, in the simplest way, manage expectations between everybody, keep everybody talking with the ecosystem, because they can't be the individual silos doing their own thing. You're all working towards the same goal, at the risk of sounding obvious. All of you are working towards the same goal. So just start talking to each other more often. And I think you will see a lot of benefit from that.
Yeah, no, I think it's very important. Yeah, because the goal is common, but the KPIs are different. So, but I think it's good that this is a structural change, probably, I would say, which you guys have brought about by constantly having conversations between the ecosystem to move this forward.
Yep.
Right. Srinath, what do you have to say on this? What are the changes you have gotten?
Yeah. So what I see sense is, like, unlike other spaces where there is something separate called a marketing success versus a sales success, at least in this space, I don't see both of these in silos. So ultimately, unless there is a sales success happening, so even though you have performed superb in marketing, all your KPIs, unless it is the sale happens, the marketing success isn't something that is considered, purely because there is, like, both these divisions don't operate in silos. And for a long time, what, like, as TJ and Piali spotted bang on, saying that there are seasonalities to things, but while we would see a lot of traffic coming in during that period, which eventually from the site visit perspective, because when we also launch a project, we also see the seasonality of the business, or which is the right medium to get the lead to the actual site visit, while there would be interaction in terms of quality leads being interested, but unless they translate into site visit, right, it's still a problem. So having that shared, conversation or a shared KPI between marketing and sales, which is why in our systems, we always all the marketing teams per se also carry a sales target revenue as well as one of the KPIs, because it is never the case that basis the budget, I generate so much lead, my job is done. No, unless the sales happens, if there is sales requirement, we'll have to fine tune our mediums. We have to figure out which are the channels which are working right to getting that particular lead. For example, a channel partner lead coming from that campaign that the channel partner is running. If that has worked well, we have to focus more on, grooming or nurturing the channel partner to generate do more of such campaigns. Channel partners, for an example, per se. But for other mediums like a Meta or a Google, for some whichever medium has worked well, we tend to, try to optimize more to get that lead instead of just, focusing on volumes. So
Right.
I believe having those conversation and a reverse feedback from sales is very essential for us to, align on this front. While customer research and all would help our marketing person to plan out a strategy, unless we know from a marketing standpoint what is the ground reality, which the sales team could tell us, which probably would have been missed from our side in terms of understanding customer, because there is a limited information where we from a marketing get to know. But the sales people on ground, they analyze the customer till the time he or she signs that booking form, and if given the trust and confidence from the brand. So actual brand advocacy is happening on ground. So unless we get to know the reverse feedback of how things are, so it becomes very difficult for us also to plan. In that way, how we have done is we have tried to, create revenue dashboards per se, which with all the stakeholders being, equally tied up with the responsible KPIs with closed loop analytics to understand what is the pipeline velocity per se, rather than just focusing on incoming leads to what is the conversion percentage, how the velocity is increasing, say month on month, or which are the periods which will give us the maximum business. So in terms of getting those common metrics, we then finalize on having the joint OKRs. OKR is something that we follow rigorously from moving the converse, having conversations across which is the right lead, how it should be served, and basis what is the right platform from where we should get most lead is something we have a heavy conversation on a weekly basis with the sales team and the required pre-sales and other divisions as well.
Right. Well, this is very interesting. I think that you have kind of shared KPIs, and your marketing is also owning the revenue dashboard and looking at basically having that KPI with themselves and seeing which channel partner or which supply source work for them. Just out of curiosity, CJ and Piali, do you also have these shared KPIs, like revenue KPIs for marketing?
CJ, do you want to go first?
Sure. Shared KPIs, maybe not as structured as Srinivas is at this point of time, or his team is at this point of time. Like I said, these are conversations that are evolving. We've taken a break from shared KPIs as it was structured. I use the word structured a little loosely right now, because of the fact that we are re-digitizing our entire process. By that, I simply mean that we've moved away from a legacy CRM system and put in something that's new, that's accepted and used by multiple firms at this point of time as new age technology, so to speak, but is at the forefront of providing you data the way you need it. And that digitization has helped us to realign KPIs, which probably get restructured again in the near future. It's like whatever is happening online is one part of it, right? As far as digital marketing is concerned and all the data that's flowing into your CRM. It is also people at the end of the day. Your marketing, sales, and pre-sales are still people. Your consumers are people. Your channel partner fraternity is people. You need to account for their behavior, because if you don't, you will find that that behavior will disrupt your system eventually.
Right. Piali.
Hi. Yeah, so for us, it's mainly, the basics, right? Like units sold, total order value, total booking value, revenue, of course. And then, site visits. But then again, site visits is a complex one. Like I explained earlier, there are many external factors that are sort of, affecting the number of site visits that you're able to sort of drive, the number of site visits that are actually getting reported correctly, and the number of site visits that are actually getting attributed to marketing, sources. But yeah, I mean, the top three ones would be revenue, booking value, and
Okay.
yeah. Did I
Okay.
mention the third one? I think I mentioned revenue, booking value. Yeah, those are the ones that would be the
Okay. So
shared
you also have pretty much, I would say, shared KPIs of revenue also for marketing.
KPIs. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then that's very interesting. I think, I mean, honestly, this is a very interesting conversation going on. I think we are just at the end of time, but I'll just ask you one last question. You could make it short or give your opinion on it. Brand building versus performance marketing. Piali.
Wow, you want a short answer because I have such a strong
We
point
can go
of view with this. I mean, where is the brand building in real estate? Let's first talk about that, right? And that's a topic for another 1 hour panel discussion. And maybe you should maybe set that up, right? I'm already volunteering for it. I'm not sure about Srinath and CJ. But there is no real brand. I mean, it's very extremely highly tactical as a category, right? I think now, I mean, I would say a lot of the newer sort of emerging players are, kind of trying to build what I like to call brand love by, bringing in some amount of excitement, on the brand. But look, I mean, if you're going to play in the same pool, right, and if you're just happy with the 5 fish that you want to, catch, then you can keep doing performance marketing, and in the long run that funnel will just collapse, as it has already started collapsing in more mature developed economies, right? I mean, if you talk to marketers in the US, they're already talking about it. All CMOs in US are facing this, right? That's going to happen, and that's going to happen to real estate sooner than later, because we're also heading towards a rough patch, right, as far as real estate in India is concerned. And therefore, if you're not going to invest in brand, you sort of, I mean, it's a very sort of short-term kind of nearsighted way of, functioning, and it's going to do you in sooner than later. But this is something that proprietors will have to understand, stakeholders will have to understand, and particularly in an industry which is fairly. Sorry, will you just give me 1 second? There is a call that's coming in. Sorry, it's stopped. Yeah, so particularly, I think in real estate in India is largely proprietor driven, right? And I think the main task here is how do you do stakeholder management and stakeholder influencing as far as investing in brand building is concerned. And brand building in real estate can't be about, hey, let's sponsor a Diwali party and kind of, do some expo and kind of sponsor that, or maybe at best like some kind of industry event. That's not really brand building. That's like short-term visibility, right? But I'm talking about actual insight-based problem solving which needs to happen, which are large brand problems, right? And how do you really then create a charter for that? So yeah, my vote is in the long term always brand building, on brand building. Yeah, in the short term, I think we're all chasing revenue, particularly as real estate marketers, and we've got to do that because that's bread and butter. But let's also maybe start to at least think about the jam and the jelly and the pickle. Yeah.
Right. CJ.
So I think I've been lucky enough to have worked. I mean, I've been around for 20 years, and this is the third brand that I'm going to start a brand building exercise with. Yes, brand building versus performance marketing, and a lot of what Piali said is really the situation on the ground, right? A lot of people, unfortunately, because of financial implications, are still looking at targets, are still looking at sales velocity, and every effort and every marketing rupee is supposed to be devoted to that. I understand that reality. It depends on the growth curve that your organization is going through. It depends on the financial discipline that your organization has put into place. I've been lucky to have been part of 3 different brands. I mean, this is going to be my 3rd brand campaign that I'll take to the market somewhere in the next 30, 40 days. Brand building online is actually a lot more difficult today than it used to be, because what is the big shift that our industry has made is that we moved away from we today call conventional advertising such as print and outdoor and expositions, etc., to the digital and our digital footprint having the larger share of voice on our marketing budgets. Now, how much of brand building can you do? Because let's say, even if you have some amount of organic traffic that's coming to your digital footprint, right, between your social media and your website and whatnot have you, it is still a large part people looking for a real estate product, right? Otherwise, why should the consumer actually look at you? Now, if you're doing something interesting with your brand story, then they, even if they're not really a consumer, they'll come see, right? We've done things over the last 2 years because of our Uber luxury project on Piali Hill that's allowed us to see and us demonstrate to our management that this is the benefits of doing, at that point was a products brand story. And these are the benefits of doing something larger for the brand, right? We are also coincidentally at that juncture of the firm is 25 years old this year, and they're at this juncture of moving into new markets and moving into new asset classes, where I've been able to build a story and tell them, listen, if you're going to a brand new market, why would people transact with you? Because they don't know who you are, right? So do you just go and talk about your product to them, or do you want to tell them what you stand for?
Yeah.
It is, I have done 1 million square feet and I have sold 30,000 homes and I've done this. No, nobody's really concerned about that today, because the consumer today, whether he's buying a 1 BHK or a 4 BHK, is still aspirational. That family is looking for the next big thing about their life. Security, stability, ease of life, conveniences, lifestyle, and more and more. And last but not least, as far as we are Indians are concerned, something that matches my stature in life today.
Yeah.
As long as you realize these things and you build a narrative internally with your entire marketing team, obviously, and then sit down with your management, I think it is possible to win over the proprietor to say that, okay, we need to put down some marketing rupee and effort for a brand story. But brand building online, I think we still have a little ways to go before we understand how much we can use the digital footprint for effective brand building. Because today everybody is just coming and seeing your social media channels. You've done something interesting as a reel or a post, they'll give you a thumbs up. They might interact with you. But did that effectively leave a message with that user is a little bit of a question mark today.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. I think for you, CJ, looks like it's more of people building than brand building, because high ticket, they're all high ticket buys, and as you rightly said, it is all aspirational. So
Yeah.
if you have invested in kind of building relationships with people, the rest of it automatically follows. You don't have to put it in the face that what you said, right? I mean, that this is so many I have sold and so many million square feet. Probably it's not needed if the people are convinced in your values, and the values, if they're matching their aspirations, then I think that's a win-win.
One of my favorite examples to quote to people, during internal discussions is that, listen, you're not going to go to buy your Mercedes at a Maruti showroom, are you? Right? You need to sell your Mercedes. You need a Mercedes showroom. So pick up your socks and design your Mercedes showroom so that people come to you.
Right. Perfect. Phenomenal answer you gave. Srinath, what do you think? Brand building or performance marketing?
I actually believe, like, purely from this industry, like me having being part of the brand, which is sort of homegrown in South India and almost for 23 years, I believe the brand is something that is essential right now for customers to evaluate the consideration. While, for example, we have a strong brand awareness score, but consideration is something that we are still working on because of so many players coming in, and obviously they having a heritage of brand, etc. But I believe that performance marketing is something which in this industry is sort of a run-of-the-mill activity which has to go. But unless the brand is strong enough, the customers, there is not a strong value that we can provide to a customer. So I believe the brand building with performance marketing has to go hand in hand. Because it also sort of helps me give the credibility of what I have done, while it may be like I have built so many square feet, I have so many customers, etc. What is the actual value I'm giving to the customer? Which is what we as a brand strongly stand for, and sort of in terms of when we deliver. It also has to do a lot of with, say, what are the timelines of delivery? How transparent are you in terms of your communication to the customer? Or what are the additional add-on services you do to a customer once you deliver a property? For example, we provide 7 years of maintenance, something like that. So these kind of activities which a brand, from its side, it offers to the customer, it sort of builds that consideration. Obviously, it sort of helps us in terms of, our referral loyalty business as well. So not just from a transactional purview, we believe it's also a responsibility from our side that we are fair and, we build that trust to the customer so that the loyalty is ensured, and it sort of helps both the ways. So for me, it has to go hand in hand.
Right. Okay. Lovely. I think we are mostly at the end of this discussion, end of the webinar. I actually am very curious to ask one more question, but I'll just leave the question. Probably we'll do it in the other webinar. From the brand building and performance marketing, I got the thought that sentiment analysis also should be very important for you, because what is the sentiment about your brand in the market, and especially in the world of social media, AI, which has both pros and cons for you. What do people think about it? What do your customers think about it who have already taken a transaction with you, purchased a property? How is the sentiment flowing? I'm sure you guys are doing definitely something on it, but I'll leave this for the next webinar. It was a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much. All you leaders are doing a lot of interesting stuff, and there are a lot of takeaways from this conversation, right from direct publisher interactions to lead quality KPIs to shared KPIs to consumer research reports, and kind of mixing it together and having data, one source of truth. So it was lovely to hear you guys, and I'm sure when we distribute this webinar across LinkedIn and across all our channels, people will find a lot of value in this. So thank you so much, guys, for joining in. We'll definitely put up something together for you guys for some very interesting topics going forward, and we'll let you know. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Deepankar.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I just have one question coming in from the audience. Do you have time to address it? It's a very small question.
Is it addressed to a particular panelist?
No, it's just generic for everyone. It says, how do you build brand for a small scale real estate company? So before we wrap it up, we can just give it 5 minutes if you all can give maybe one-liner inputs on this.
Sure. Who'd like to go first? Okay, I'll kick it off. All right. Building a brand, there are a couple of things that I think you should do right at the beginning. It may not be necessary that it's a small real estate brand. It could be a 40-year-old company that's not really invested in their brand as well. It's like the good old days, they call it a SWOT analysis, right? A strengths, weakness, opportunities, threat. Try and do that about your brand. Consumer research, like Piali was talking about, that she's done earlier this year, last year, I'm sorry, I don't remember where, is also key to understanding what your brand and your products mean to the consumer. Once you've done both of these, you will find two things that you can do. One is package your communication, right? And across all touch points. Do something on your website, do something especially at your sales offices. Take that into your head office for the rest of all your other support staff, your architects, your engineers. Whenever they walk into the head office, maybe little posters about stuff like that. Do a town hall to explain to people what the new brand is supposed to be. What is our strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats? And over time, you will start to see that the culture of your internal stakeholders and external stakeholders will start to change. And then from there, you build on to the next chapter of the brand story. It's not a 5-minute discussion, unfortunately, because the theory of brand building is continuously evolving. And, there are 3 people in this room. We'll still have 30 different theories between us. Like Piali said, maybe we just do a whole new session on that altogether. I'd love to be a part of it. I'd definitely love to be a part of it. Thank you.
What is your opinion, Piali, on the question?
Yeah, so I think CJ has covered most of it, right? I just say that, every brand has certain problems. Start with the research, figure out what your problem is. Use brand building for perception change. For example, let's say if you're a small player, you're finding it really hard to crack the luxury real estate segment within the offering that you have, right? Because people do not associate you with luxury. For example, right? How do you use brand communications, real clutter breaking creativity, which I think still has immense value, more value than we give it credit for, to change that perception. So yeah, I think, I mean, brand building also has to deliver certain KPIs. I strongly believe in that, right? It's not brand building for the sake of brand building. Identify what those KPIs are right at the beginning, so you know what your objectives are, and then you're sort of chasing that. And then I think, I mean, yes, it is about investment. So if you're able to sort of, squeeze in a, couple of more dollars, I do believe that every brand experiment initiative that you do needs to be backed by some research, even if it's just a YouTube research that you're doing to just understand about what kind of lift you've received as a result of it. You must do that, because otherwise, it's fairly rudderless, right? You don't know what you're chasing and what is your effort ultimately resulting in. So yeah, insight driven, problem solving, and finally research to kind of help you understand what that did for you and take corrective actions if needed.
Srinath.
Yeah, I think for the basic is something, get your basics right is what I would think, if like you have to build a small brand, because the brand building varies from which stage of the lineup are you at right the moment. So for example, if you are a small real estate company, you are wanting to build, so firstly identify what is the moat. How are you different from other builders? Like, do not go around copying what is the best. Identify what is the good and build upon or add on to that, instead of trying to focus on 100 different things. If you are offering say 5 things, identify how you can scale those up, and to build that up, I also be very transparent and truthful to the customer is what I believe, because for brand building you need always a customer advocacy that takes you to the next level. So focus more on say building testimonial videos, talk about how your product is different, or how is it aspirational, how is it going to solve the problem that you're trying to address, because that is the key, which I believe is sort of get the message get diluted when we start talking about 100 different things. When you are there to solve one problem, speak clearly and boldly about how your brand is actually helping the customer out of that, and probably offering the best that they could get, obviously with the requirement that they have, and how the brand is able to marry their current versus what the future they are looking for from your brand. So that's my take on it.
Like to add one thing, there is as when you're starting to create a brand, remember there's always a difference between a corporate identity and a brand. It's kind of mutually exclusive. Figure that out as well. Unfortunately, quite a few players kind of mix that up.
Right.
No, lovely. Shirley, do we have any more questions?
We do have about 3 questions, but we can address it next time, or perhaps over email as well. That's not a problem, unless you want to go through it right now.
I have to. Unfortunately, I am late for something. I need to jump into another management meet in about 4 minutes.
No worries.
So please, feel free to share my LinkedIn. You guys are tagging me anyways on LinkedIn, so share it with the audience, and they can reach out to me there. I'm more than happy to help.
Absolutely. I can send you an email with the questions. I think we'll get back to the audience over email with the remaining questions, whatever is directed to the panelists, and we'll get in touch with you. We'll get in touch with the audience based on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lovely seeing you.